on this week's episode of the Jesse T Show, the man, the leader of Broken Chains International, Live, Love, Lead Academy, and the Chief Encouragement Officer himself, Mr. Kevin Daly. Kevin, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
It's been one of these interviews, conversations that I've wanted to have for a very long time because you've made such an impact in my life, my wife's life as well, individually and then together, relationship-wise. And just for those who've heard our story before, you're a big reason why we're still married. We've utilized your services, and so as we walk through this conversation, we'll talk more about that, but I want people to know how important you are to us, how much you mean to us, and the value you've brought into our lives. And so I know you've done that for a lot of people. I know you've helped and touched, and I know you're a humble guy and you don't like to talk about those things specifically in the whatever, but I think that it's important to get that out. So if you would just share with the world a little bit about your story, your mission, how it all started, and how we got here today.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We're in Ireland. I am your Irish brother, not by heritage, but by birth. Yeah. And so my better half, Debbie, came to Ireland with her parents as a missionary family. So she was an MK, we call her a missionary kid. And we met there, got a lot of premarital counseling, and got a lot of help, and said I do, right? She said, yes, I will be married with your people. And so...
little did she know what that meant.
Yeah, she had no idea. 7 years in, she had a clue. Yeah. And that's when we kind of hit the rocks. Okay. Right? People talk about sevens in marriages, right? 7 years, 14, 21, and so on, right? And I'm not quite sure what that is, but there's something there. So 7 years in.
A biological change in your body, usually every 7 years, some of your systems change and revamp, and so there's something to it for sure.
Right. Well, we experienced it, man. So there were a lot of pressurizing, issues or circumstances that kind of flowed into our perfect storm. Most of which, honestly, Jesse, it was me looking too much to work.
Sure.
To get my sense of identity from, right? Most men look to work to get their sense of worth from, and it's really common. It's not really supposed to be where we get our worth from. I mean, we're supposed to enjoy it. We're supposed to succeed at it. It was here before the fall, right? Before everything went pear-shaped, right? And so it's not a curse. Work is not a curse, right? And so, but a lot of times, good things can be looked to too much for more than they were intended to provide to us, right? And so I did that, and unfortunately, my better half, my bride, the one whom was gifted to me, literally gifted to me, although her dad made me wait 3 days and 3 nights before he said, yes, you can have permission. I felt like I was Jonah in the belly of the whale, So.
The crucible of the 3-day wait, yeah?
Really, it was not fun, dude, not fun. And
what'd you do during those 3 days? Did you have to bide your time?
No, I think I got an ulcer, man. I think I just, what's this fella doing? And so, but he said yes, thankfully. We said I do, 7 years in, a couple of kids in, a couple of miscarriages in. Yep. We, and me becoming a workaholic, basically, even in ministry, even in God, vocational workaholic. And
what does that mean? Does that mean 80 hours a week, 70 hours a week, every day, 7 days a week? I mean, what did workaholic mean for you?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, it meant that even when I wasn't there physically, I was there mentally, right?
You weren't present with your loved ones when you weren't working.
Yeah. One of the greatest gifts, the gifts of presence, was something I lacked. And if I'm not careful, I can still do that today. Sure. If I'm not intentional, I can still do that today. So Debbie and I, of all places, man, we ended up in Blairsville, Georgia,
Okay.
for a 2-day intensive counseling kind of experience.
For those that don't know, that are listening to the podcast or watching the show, Blairsville, Georgia is basically Pucker Brush, Kansas. It's out of the way. It doesn't even make sense that you would go there versus Atlanta or some of the bigger towns in Georgia.
Yeah. I think at the time maybe they had one traffic light. I think at the time.
Maybe.
No, it's still bigger now. That was 18, almost 19 years ago.
Yeah.
So we didn't know where to go. God connects people, right? And so we ended up from Dublin, Ireland, all the way to Blairsville, Georgia, right around the corner from where we were. Debbie's parents' best friends lived.
Okay.
So they minded our kids while we went to this
Huge help.
Yeah, it was amazing.
You move across the pond, so to speak, and you've left a continent and a country that was much different, and you have like no support system, but to have that there, I think is huge.
Well, we hadn't left Ireland yet.
Okay.
That was just, look,
this is just a
we need help
intensive.
somewhere. And we just didn't know where to go over there. Like we knocked on a lot of doors and just, God put us right around the corner from Debbie's parents. And we didn't have any idea that they, anyway, it was amazing.
Faith.
God showed up in our story there, shifted our perspective, helped us get rid of some excess baggage we seriously needed to get rid of.
What was the 2-day intensive like for you? I've been through that, and you were the one that conducted that, and we'll talk about that later. But for you, what was your 2-day intensive like in terms of some of the skeletons that were able to be pushed out? Not specifics, but like how did it feel, and what kind of release did you have, and how did you leave there with new eyes moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, the first, just to throw myself under the bus, we got there, we sat on the other side of a table kind of like this, and as soon as we got there, Debbie started crying, and the counselors said, "Child of grace, what is going on? We haven't even gotten started." And she was bucketing tears, and she said, "I'm just so relieved to be here. It's taken me so long to get here." And she said, and then they looked at me, dry-eyed,
quiet, stoic, probably waiting to unleash.
Yeah, stoic is a word that hasn't been accused to me very often. But they said, "And what about you, Daly?" And I said, "I'm just here so we can get her fixed and so we can get back on with it." I was that stupid.
Yeah, myopic in a sense.
So they had a field day with me for the next couple of days. Some of the biggies were that we were doing life in dependence on ourselves primarily, right? Yep. And ultimately, our Maker has set life up so that we are plugged into Him, so that we're experiencing His strength, His perspective, His power source, His life flowing through ours, right? And we were leaders in ministry, for the most part, doing it our own strength. And so that was a massive paradigm shift, to be honest.
Sure.
In our love life, right? I mean, we've learned so much since then, right? It wasn't everything was solved, and that was another light bulb moment that maybe we'll get to later. But for then, we had some people that we really needed to forgive, man. We needed to let go of.
Oh, yeah.
Get them out of our, headspace. And that was massive.
Absolutely.
That was massive.
Can you describe what that is, the kind of the physical or the illustration of the riverbed with the boulders and the twigs and all this?
Yeah. So like if oftentimes we would say, our life is like a riverbed, right? And if it's like a riverbed and we're here, there's a lot of things that we're clear about, but there's other areas of our lives that we're like, can you help me out? When we look back up through our story, we'll find tree trunks and boulders in our riverbed of our life that basically impede the flow of quality, of fullness of life, right, in our stories. And some of us, I know exactly where some of those boulders and tree trunks are, right? Some of us are clueless that actually that is still causing a problem today, because most of us I don't want to talk about the past, I don't want to go there. Yep. And can we just push forward? And the truth, yes, you can, but you can't move forward if you haven't processed this junk, without this junk impacting the quality of your life here and now and into the future. So we just help people, and for us, we were helped process this, because life, there's a lot of different characters in our story, based upon how we interact with those characters. We have certain emotions, certain feelings, and certain beliefs that kind of get planted in our lives, right? And not every one of those beliefs are accurate. And so when life happens, especially tough stuff happens, generally there's a distorted perspective that kind of gets planted in our mind, in our psyche. And what happens is we then develop coping mechanisms and survival strategies and flesh patterns just to deal with life, right? To try to make it work. And so we have kind of these protective layers that we don't even know they're protective layers. And from anger to withdrawal to substances, to all sorts of different ways that some people in arguments escalate, go for the jugular. Other people like withdraw and run, kind of a thing, right? And the idea is that belief drives behavior, right? There's something in us that's saying, look, to withdraw is better for me, maybe even better for us. And if I stay, I'm going to say something that I'm going to regret. Thoughts like that. So belief drives behavior. But when life happens, sometimes, not all the time, but boulders and tree trunks get dropped in the riverbed of our lives. And if we don't process them, if we don't, we can't change the past, but if we don't process them, then they stay as excess baggage or excess, elements that create dams, if you like, in our lives, slowing down the current of quality of life, fullness of life, God, experiencing Him through our stories. That's a lot of times kind of what happens. So that's what happened for us.
So this is something that you saw in your intensive, or this is something you've adopted to illustrate for your clients moving forward based on that?
Yeah, I would say in its very core, bare rudiments, we experienced something like this for sure. Yep. And then we've kind of built on that and adapted it and made it our own, as we've gone on. So we have two models. One is the intensive model. So we have 2.5 or 3 day intensive programs. People come from all over the country, all over the state, all over the country, and different countries around the world fly in to actually experience our intensives, which is mad. Yes. That, first of all, that God would bring a leprechaun 4,000 miles from his homeland and plop him right here. That's madness. Yep. But then that He would bring others, but that's part of the reason why we're in Atlanta, right? Because it's Delta's hub. People can come and go from anywhere in the world. Yep. Then locally, we have, and then even nationally, internationally, we have hourly model counseling and coaching where people can have that face-to-face or by video or via phone, anywhere, right? And so when we have a team that's grown, right? In the beginning it was just Debbie and I, but right now we have a beautiful growing team of counselors that counsel and coach, marriage, family, even business coaching as well.
I think that the process in the illustration to understand that you have these things that have affected you in your life, and speaking for myself, I've done this with Alicia. We've had a 2-day intensive where it was eye-opening, the baggage you carry around, and you can't move forward, or you can't move forward the way you're supposed to because you're being held behind. Mm-hmm. And so all these negative instances that have happened, in my life, and these things that we've shared before. I mean, we've lost children. You mentioned miscarriages. Mm-hmm. We've lost a full-term pregnancy daughter that was born, and she went back home after 7 days, and we had a miscarriage, and those are huge things. And then growing up before I met Alicia, had a ton of baggage. Bullied, scarring from my father, who was a 40-year heroin addict. I got into substance abuse for a while and had all these issues and never had the right coping mechanisms. And they don't teach this stuff a lot of times in school. And I went to a Catholic school, and there's some things they teach around that. Yeah. But for the most part, you're learning these things in a survival mode. Right. How do I survive? How do I stay alive? How do I make it? And a lot of times it's not the right way. And so for me, this was probably, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but it was multiple years ago. I've been walking around up until my early 30s with these things that have happened to me. It's probably right around 5-6 years ago whenever we did this. And so for us, we did it for 2 days. Like you talked about, we came in for 8 to 10 hour days. And then at the end of the 2 days, we went off, and the place we got married has a nice hotel, and we kind of stayed there and had a little date night. But the work wasn't done. It was just started. And so, yes, you had us do another thing where we wrote down people's names, and we had to shred it and kind of forget it, so to speak. I forgive you. We said prayers around it, and we let these things go. But there was still some things that we had to work on. And we've actually, we came back for counseling after that, and we still work on things. And it's you're never done. We talked about it before jumping on air. You've never arrived. And I think that understanding the beginning, or the crux, and then having the tools moving forward through an intensive, through the 1 hour coaching, through the academy that you have, you can live a life well lived if you have help, and you need help. I think that's huge. So kudos for sure. But as far as coming here, your story and getting here, I think your first place you stopped in was Miami.
We flew into Miami in October of 2004, August 2004, right? So our 15th official kind of anniversary is coming up next year. We began the ministry kind of formally in January of 2005.
Okay.
And yeah, we started out of a church's bridal suite, which was kind of cool when you're doing kind of marriage work in the bridal suite, room, right?
What is that like? I don't know. I guess that's where they meet, their party meets before the wedding. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, generally the bride's in there with the girls, then they're just finishing off makeup and, odds and ends.
Smack.
I find myself very often in the bridal suite, right? For the weddings, I'm generally with the lads and praying with them before and his best man and groomsmen are saying, okay, look, there's a window here, dude. This is your last chance to run, and so... So there was a massive bridal mirror in this room. It was beautiful, man. In fact, sometimes at the end of intensives, we would have them for those who were ready. They'd kind of recommit with their wedding vows in front of that mirror. Beautiful, right time. But we started there, and then as we continued to kind of grow, we needed some more space, we needed some more privacy, we needed some more kind of confidentiality. And so we literally, we were in that corner office right across that parking lot. Remax Unlimited here in Kennesaw, Georgia, to give them a plug.
There you go.
Gary Rogers said, you know what, man? Why don't you come over and just have a look and see if I have anything or whatever, we'll have a chat. And so he ended up subletting couple of offices, let us use his boardroom. Now, realtors, right? Their furniture's immaculate,
top notch.
And so we used their boardroom for a couple of years, which is beautiful for our intensives, and then a couple other offices there and then we outgrew that, right? And then we ended up on 41, with probably, maybe 3 to 5 times the size of what we had access to there. Yep. And then we were there a few years, and then we outgrew that. And then we called Gary and said, hey, you got any more space? He said, no, I don't have space. But Joe, who used to be the Allstate guy over there, he's over in the building behind me. He might have some space. So we called Joe. Baker, Allstate, Kennesaw, recommend him highly.
There you go.
He let us come in here, and is a great guy, did us a great deal. We believe God was in it, and we pretty quickly, actually within a year, we were needing to do some remodeling and grow. And this is now 10 times easily the size of what we had over there.
You're being humble. You didn't have to do a little remodeling. You've moved walls and you've opened up hallways and closed down hallways. I mean, you've revamped the whole thing because the growth has been exponential.
Yeah, we're really grateful for God in all of that. Yes. And so now our team is about 15, and we are about to expand again across the hallway upstairs.
Don't stop moving.
Well, there won't be any more room, I think, after that, and so we'll add 6 more offices, another boardroom, and a couple of other rooms there, and so if you know of any children's counselors that are looking for a space, we need a children's counselor, we need another male counselor. So just go to our website, fill in the volunteer employee application, and awesome. You can be part of the team with the rest of us. Right?
Do they have to be local, or can they be virtual with some of the stuff you do online with the coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ideally, to go through our training, we're looking for more local people initially.
Sure.
But as we continue to grow, then more virtual positions would be opening up for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Having quality people as the business grows, I think it's one of the hardest things in any business is quality people, and keeping them and making sure they're happy, but you're also happy with them. And so as you've grown, the calling and the cause and the business, you've needed more quality people. So the people that you deal with in terms of like the counseling side, you have life coaches, biblical counselors, therapists. Expand on a little bit more the type of people that you're bringing into the organization and kind of what that's done for the growth of the operation.
Yeah, I would say we began initially with a focus on leadership. So business leaders, actually initially it was church leaders, missionary families, marriages, and then other kind of faith-based leaders, and then the door to the public just kept being knocked, right? I mean, we actually didn't even have a door to the public. We said, we feel called to just really focus on leadership, and so then with my heart is the heart of a pastor, where I began, right? And so and I'm a counselor as well, right? Or at least I counsel as well. That's not who I am, it's what I do, right? And so with that, the team began to grow, and so we then shifted into leadership is still one of our kind of pillars, but we also very much so our marriage and family counseling and coaching kind of practice, right? A nonprofit. And so we have children's counselors, we have teen counselors, we have singles counselors, we have male for men and for women, counselors, obviously marriage counselors. We're going to be adding, we are literally across the hall from Georgia Podiatry, and so we have elderly coming in every single day, right, to get their body kind of, or their feet, shored up right underneath them, and there are just a lot of challenges in the day in which we live. Every corner of real estate out there, at least from my vantage point lately, instead of pubs going up like they would in Ireland, right, on every corner, you know what I mean? They're building senior citizen, facilities, right? And I don't know what the stats are, but there's just a lot of adults who are caring for their parents who are having to make those decisions. And so we're bringing on some coaches, some counselors.
I think the biggest thing that is leading to that is the generation, the baby boomers, and they're the ones that are still taking care of parents and they're still trying to help out. And then in a season of life, in a few years, decades, or some time, they're going to be there too. So it's a need for sure. It's a market to be served, and if you can help somebody at any age, and it seems like you run the gamut from children to elderly.
Yeah. And then we have, state licensed professional counselors, licensed associate professional counselors on their way there. We have supervisors of licensed professional counselors. Okay. We have a couple of doctors, not medical doctors, right, but who've gotten their doctorate in counseling, right? And so from children to the elderly, we have a team now that cares for our community in that way, and we're just thrilled to be able to work with a team of people. None of us have it all together. All of us are all still working in our own stories. However, we have training, we have experience, and we're able to be that objective, third person sometimes, or just second person that is able to see and help those that God sends our way, see the woods for the trees, and help them with some objectivity, help them with where they are a little distorted in their thinking, help that get corrected, right? So yeah, we're thrilled about right now. Our pressing need is for another children's counselor and another male counselor. But yes, we're going to continue to add.
I think it speaks to what you're accomplishing here and what you're doing to help others, and it's a self-sacrificing thing, but it's also your motto, and you'll say it much better than I, but live, love, lead. Is that the motto for the company?
So for Broken Chains International, it's live free. We help people live free and love well, right? So the name is Broken Chains International, right? So the chains are already broken. Jesus already took care of that when he died for all of us, okay? But our experience of that freedom, we don't always feel free, right? And so freedom is only able to be experienced by us degree by degree the more we walk in the truth, right? He said through Paul, you will know the truth, experientially know the truth, and the truth will set you free, right? And so sometimes the truth doesn't make people happy, right? because sometimes it's home truths about ourselves,
Sure.
right? That we need to see, embrace, and own. But as we do, freedom comes from that. And
Absolutely.
so yeah, we help people live free and love well, right? There's no greater calling in all of our lives than to learn how to love better across every spectrum of our stories. And so we help people live free and love well in broken chains, and then Live, Love, Lead is kind of where people transition into. It's our coaching company, and the coaching company, Live, Love, Lead, is where we help people live fully, love deeply, and lead authentically. So it's got a leadership track that's not in broken chains. So we've kind of separated that over here into Live, Love, Lead, and we have academy over there, coaching, speaking, all of that fits underneath the Live, Love, Lead umbrella.
So lots of irons in the fire, lots of tracks, lots of segments of starting here, and the overall theme is never arriving. You've never finished life until you move on to the next world, but you always can get better in relationships, you can get better in business, you can get better at being mindful of the time you spend with people and being present, like we talked about earlier. There's always a way to develop and live better and love better and lead better, and I think that's where you're heading with that. And so speaking about truth and telling your story, I mean, there is a lot of power in being true and telling your story. And I've recently had one of my coaches and mentors on the business side, Patrick Tucker. He has been someone who's been placed in my life, I think, through fate. And he's someone who has helped me understand that my story is my power and it's not a negative. And I've had such a crazy story that telling that story has been a huge power for me and a huge truth. And it's there's this book that I've read twice now this year. It's called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Great mindset story, great overcoming adversity. He's accomplished some of the greatest things that the human can accomplish in this world. He's always talking about the truth. And you can't hurt me. If I've told you everything and I've laid out all my cards on the table, you can't hold it against me. And so for me in a business where I have clients that are, we're dating. Like they meet me, I meet them. I want to make sure they're happy. I want to make sure I'm happy. And if it's a good fit, my coach calls them, you want to weed out the pitas, which is pain in the ass. Like you don't want to have a pain in the ass if you can help it. But if you lay out all your cards on the table and say, this is who I am, this is what I can do, and this is how this can benefit you, and this is my story, there's no skeletons in the closet that can come up later and freak people out. So a lot of power in the truth. And I think that you've helped me understand that years ago when I'm doing therapy with you and couples therapy with Alicia. And then as you move forward, you've never arrived. You always want to keep that truth at the forefront and try to be self-aware, be humble, and try to continue that process.
Yeah, I would say two thoughts. First thought is that a lot of people like the idea of transparency, right? And it is a great word, and it is a word that helps people see behind the curtain, right? We hear challenges on social media. Hey, don't compare your negatives with another person's highlight reel, right?
Sure.
A lot of times we do that, right? But transparency is this idea of openness. Transparency almost gives a person a gun, that they could hurt you with. Vulnerability actually puts the bullets to the gun in their hand.
Yeah.
And however, but if we're living life not in order to get other people's acceptance,
correct,
right? And love and worth and security, then because we're living life from the truth that we are already loved, accepted, worthy, and secure, then although I want your love, acceptance, and I want you to treat me like I'm worthy and allow security to be experienced in whatever type of relationship we have, I'm now living freer than I was living before, and so I don't give you that power because you're another created being like I am.
Right.
But we don't have these type of conversations, right, most days with people. So, but that frees us to give not just transparency, but to be vulnerable. And it's a better quality life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's better quality life. The second thing I would say, just in regards to that, is that in never arriving, one day I was talking to a friend of mine, and these are some faulty perspectives, okay? But I want to actually just say, look, these could be negative perspectives about somebody really close in your life, okay? And as we continue, to do life, even to do leadership, to serve others, help others, we have to be careful that we actually don't go camping here, right? That we make sure that we don't put down stakes in the ground and focusing basically on negatives about the people that we love most in the world. Because what happens is, and it's so easy to do, man.
Yeah.
When we do that, it does a number on our emotions, and it does a number again on our behavioral patterns, right? And I think so we almost need to put up a sign in our heads that says no camping, at least around the negatives, about the other people in our lives. It's not that we're pretending they don't have negatives, or they don't have weaknesses, or they don't have failures, or whatever, or they don't have even difficult spaces in them. It's about whatever we focus on, our feelings follow.
Yep.
And where our feelings follow, our functioning or our behavior isn't very far behind. So what we focus on, massive.
Absolutely.
I know you're a big dude about mindset.
Huge.
And that's it. It really is about our mindset, right? And there's just a lot of things that can help our mindset, right? From the physical to the emotional to the spiritual to the mental.
Yep.
It all fits together.
It does, and it has to. There's this common misconception that work-life balance or works XYZ balance, and there's no such thing as an even balance, but it's being mindful of those, I call them silos, where if you have fitness, family, faith, business, whatever is important to you in your world, and being cognizant of when I'm working on this thing over here, work on it, give it 100%, but then when I go home with the kids, we talked about it earlier, being present with them and not being, fitness plays into this, but not being lazy or tired. It's okay to be lazy and tired sometimes, but they need your love and affection. So you have to show up and be present for them too. And I think that being mindful of those things and having people to help you learn about them, whether they're coaches, therapists, counselors, people that are thought leaders out there, identifying those things and working on them always. You never arrived. And that's the whole kind of point to this conversation at this point is, if you feel like, and this is something we used to get taught in business all the time, once you feel like you've arrived, you get passed up right away and you start to digress. So if you stop learning, if you stop breaking your comfort zones, if you start scaling your company and doing things that maybe you're not quite ready for, but then God pushes you in the right direction and then you were ready for it, if you stop those things, you go backwards. And I think that never arriving is a good thing. And the journey of life, it's finite, it can end right now. But while we're here, why don't we put 100% if we can most of the time into those things, because sometimes you're just not perfect, but if you can put 100% of those things mindfully and have a good mindset, I think that controls a lot of your direction in life and your path in life. And so at the end of the day, mindset is huge, and people like yourself and your team, I think, give people those tools and those understandings to walk in life a little bit more truthful and a little bit more open to the world. So
yeah, I think for all of us, we battle limiting beliefs.
For sure.
And our need is to replace those limiting beliefs with liberating truths.
I want to talk about that. It's important.
Yeah.
So the not to cut you off, continue if you had something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so negative self-talk has been really big, identifying that for me because of my coping mechanisms,
Mm-hmm.
the wrong ones, and growing up bullied and feeling like I wasn't worthy or I had something to prove. And I learned a couple of years ago, there's a gentleman out there named Jim Quick, really intelligent guy. He talks about how to overcome negative self-talk, and it's just as easy as soon as you have that negative thought or emotion, if you can replace it with a positive reinforcement right away. And that's changed a huge deal for me in how I operate in my life, because there's just a fight or flight mechanism that we have where if something's uncomfortable, we might try to talk ourselves out of something. Sometimes in the morning when I wake up and I know I have to go run, I'm like, I don't know if I'm feeling it. And I tell myself, I'm like, literally, you're just waking up. This isn't the brain that you need to listen to right now. Start your routine, get into it, and then after a few minutes, you can kind of start talking to yourself. And so it's really important to be cognizant of it and have the tools to be able to work on that as well.
Yeah. It's huge. Back to focus again, right? It's like, where are you going to tell that organ called your brain that you own, right? Sometimes it doesn't feel like we own that, You own it, and you tell it where to go, right? And then a lot of times preparation is huge, right? Just for me, getting my runners or sneakers ready, getting the socks, getting the shorts, getting the t-shirt and the second t-shirt after I sweat the first one like no man's business.
Right.
Get that ready the night before, so that when I defeat the battle of the blanket and roll out of the bed in the beginning, they're ready to go. So preparation is huge in all of this, right? You know, too. For so many of our clients, but even just for me, I got sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you want to stop feeling that, you know, what you've allowed into your life has to change, right? More of the same is going to give you more of the same, right? Whatever got you here isn't going to get you to the next space or phase where you want to be. And so what am I going to take out? What am I going to, you know, pop in? And prep is massive.
I agree. And being cognizant of those things and setting yourself for success in routines or patterns, knowing that, you know, for me, I do a lot of intermittent fasting now. And so I want to have something healthy around when it's time to eat, because, you know, even like my glycogen stores and my energy and my insulin's probably not acting right because I've given myself at least 16 hours to not eat, which has all these benefits. But if I reach for the first thing, a lot of times it could be something sugar related because I need to get my sugar back up. And so being mindful to have something healthy, a lean protein, a nice fruit, or some vegetables to be able to reach for, because I know that's going to happen. And I think that's been really a huge thing, is having those routines in place. But one of your narratives that's super important, it's a narrative in life and business and relationships and everything that you're into, is that you kept showing up and you never quit. So if you could talk about a couple instances where that perseverance or that blind faith and, you know, for you, your higher power and all these things, what did that look like for you? Because it transcends into now almost 15 years later for running this cause. So I think that'd be really important to share with some of the people that are watching.
Yeah, I think, you know, from our move 4,000 miles away, you know, kind of not knowing what it was all going to look like, but believing at the core that this is what we felt moved, called to do. Putting one foot in front of the next has been massive for us. We didn't know the long-term plan. We didn't know the details. In fact, when we started, it almost seemed like the details were unraveling, right? Not getting clearer. And so I felt like that was opposition, right? In the time that we've been here, I've run a couple of marathons, full marathons, and a few half marathons. And dude, I'm not a runner, okay? I'm a leprechaun,
You keep
okay?
saying that, but you are a runner.
Well,
I just got over that.
Right, yes.
I'm a runner now.
Yes. Although now I'm an elliptical user now, because I want my knees to last as long as possible, right?
Smart.
But from pounding the tennis court. But when preparing for those marathons, I would ask people, how do you do it, man? How on earth do you run? They would tell me, you put one foot in front of the other. And I wanted to slap them and say, come on.
Right, give me
come
something
on,
more.
give me, yeah. And now, having done a couple or a few, I would say, hey, don't hit me. But really, when people say, well, that is the plan. Yeah. That is the plan, you know? And I had a pace coach, not formal, didn't hire them, when I was on some of those marathons, and they helped me get further faster. Yep. Coaching, counseling helps you get further faster, right?
100%.
So, but showing up was massive. You know, whether it's preparing for a marathon, which preparing for the greatest marathon in any of our lives, I call marriage. Yep. You know, and it takes intentionality, it takes training, it takes perseverance, it takes perspective, and it takes you continuing to show up. So many marriages that decide to go their separate ways, 5 years later, 75% of them wished that they had to put in more effort, more energy, more perseverance on the other side of, I'm done. And that's been very, very powerful to hear, right? So many stories there. But showing up really for us, whether that's been a donor that's contributed to help, like just the other day, somebody donated $5,000 to help a widow process some of her baggage right from her story. Okay. A single mom with 3 kids who's struggling to get by, but she's struggling with anger and depression.
Sure.
And a abandoned mom with 4 kids, I think, who's trying to know, how do I put one foot in front of the other, right? And so I think she's just kind of punch drunk from life, right? And so just from hanging in there and showing up, right? Yeah, we're a nonprofit counseling organization. So we receive donations from our community, from individuals, families, businesses, churches. And
the support from the people that are around you.
Yeah. To help counseling fees not be, help people afford counseling. Basically.
Scholarship is what we used to call it. You still call it a scholarship?
Yeah, we call it a scholarship, which is really a discounted fee, right? Or which others have given to be able to help us facilitate that.
I took advantage of it years ago when I first sought out coaching.
Yeah,
is what it disguised as. I've had a shit life and I need help. Let me go get coaching as a business person because that sounds cool. But what I really needed was like a bailout from all my crap.
Yeah, it's all right, man.
But the scholarship helped. The scholarship did. It took off some pressure. It made me understand that you were trying to work with me, and in being in business, like you have my back, I have your back kind of thing, and that made me want to work with you even more.
Yeah. And so a lot of people have received help through the generosity and kindness of others, paying it forward, giving back, however, believing in helping people live free and love well, and in a team of people who do that from a faith perspective, right? Where Christian counseling, marriage and family, counseling and coaching, organization. And so that has been massive. We have 32 churches in our local community that believe in how we counsel and place their trust and faith in us and in that relationship, right? And we are able to be a support to them that don't have like a counseling wing to the church. And so we come alongside them to help them accomplish what God's called all of us to do, and that is to love Him with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and our neighbor as ourselves, right? And that's part of, you got to get free before you can love well. And so we're honored and humbled to be able to partner with them. And
it's a testament. You're in the industry of helping people and helping other people in a kind of cliche way see the light, so to speak. But like learn these things, have aha moments, and it's resonated so much that local relationships, 32 different churches in the community, referral system that you've built there, donations you've built there, because people believe in it. It's a common term in the vernacular of business these days. But your why, they believe in your why, and they see companies that sell you things, and there's tons of coaches, there's tons of counselors, there's tons of, and they the what and the how is what they focus on, but their why isn't aligned with a lot of the people that they're targeting, and they don't know how to convey that. And I think that from what I've seen as a client and as someone who's seen the business evolve and grow, and tremendous, number one, but number two, it does really resonate, and it really aligns with the truth. And that's what it is. This is who we are. This is what we do. We have the experience, like you mentioned. We haven't figured it all out, but we're at a point where we've done this enough, and we have this accreditation through degrees or through certificates, and this is what we offer our clients, and they resonate with that at the end of the day, because all those things are nice. A degree, a doctor, all these things are cool if you have these people on staff, but it's how you make people feel and the tools that you give them to move forward. And I'm a living testament that it actually is amazing and it works. So super excited about what you've done for my life. Yeah.
Oh, we were honored, man.
Yeah. Honor was mine. Honor. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I wouldn't be married. I wouldn't have, I don't even know if we had Grayson, our son, at that point. So we have, we lost our daughter, Alana Marie. We had a miscarriage. We had Grayson, who's our angel rainbow baby. And then we had William. And I've found my higher purpose on earth is being a dad and being a good dad, because I didn't have a good dad. And I wanted that relationship with my dad. And so I'm not perfect. I haven't arrived, but I think I'm a pretty good dad. And I think that my sons, they know that, they feel that. And a big testament to that, it's not the only thing, and I know you're a humble guy, but a big testament to that is our relationship. And the times that I wanted to get divorced, and the times where I was giving up, or you talk about the enemy and planting negative seeds in your head, and that's true, or looking another way, or is the grass greener over here, or can I be better off doing this? And it was all crap. And it took someone who had that experience and that passion and that why that resonated with me as a human being to get me to see that. And so now, for better or worse, we've continued the population in the world, right? Obviously for better, but the world can be overpopulated, people say. But anyway, so Grace and William are here in part because of our relationship. That's huge. I can't thank you enough. Like, I'm a dad because a part of what you've done.
Awesome. And Grace we can't do life without grace from above, right? And William is a great name, man. I have to go to William Wallace, he fights for people's freedom.
That's it. You know, so Grayson's name, for those that know, you know, he was our third pregnancy, and people were asking us, you know, when they find out you're pregnant, because they don't know the other side of pregnancy, how it could be risky, how there could be miscarriages. A lot of pregnancies are threatened in some way, shape, or form. So we're on number 3, and we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl yet, and Alicia had just gone to an appointment. And for me, I'm on my spiritual journey, and you know, I'm praying. I grew up in a Catholic church, and you know, and so I'm praying to God, and I'm just like, God, please just protect our child, because people were like, what do you want, a boy or a girl? And at this point, we just want a healthy baby. That's it. And so I'm praying, and before we knew it was a boy or a girl, I had a feeling it was going to be a son. So I don't know, Alicia thinks it's the Holy Spirit. I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know, we'll just let it be. And I said, please God, put the grace on my son to protect him to be alive. And that's how his name came about, was Grayson. And it ended up being a boy. We found out like a day or two later. We didn't know. So crazy story. And then William, his name, her dad is William, and my dad is Anthony. So William Anthony. So we kind of did the traditional, like honor our parents, but they wouldn't be here. So awesome. I did the hard work, but
I won't tell Alicia you said that.
Right. Yeah, she did all the work.
You're safe here, man.
She's still doing the work.
What's said here stays here.
Except for the world to see. So now in today's kind of moving forward and thinking about what you're creating and how you're helping and people that are helping you, and it's a beautiful handshake. Where is Broken Chains and Live, Love, Lead heading? Like where is the next stop, or even the next few stops? And maybe if you don't know, but like where would you like to see it go?
Sure, yeah. I think we never want to get away from one kind of concept that we try to remind anyone who calls or emails or comes here of this. What if there was a place so safe where the very best and the very worst about you could be known, and you could be loved more, not less, in the telling of it? So we never want to forget that, right? He's called us to help people live free and love well, and there's all different ways we can do that, right? But I don't want us to ever forget that we're providing a safe place for people to come and yes, get rid of some excess baggage and correct any thinking that may not be accurate, so that they can lay hold of truth that is freeing for them, and to help them know how much they are loved, so that they can. Right? You can't give what you don't have, right?
That's right.
So I never want us to forget those tenets, really, of why we're doing what we're doing and what our culture is here. We literally in next month will expand across the hall upstairs and take over the next wing upstairs of that space. It's another 2,500 to 3,000 square feet.
Wow! And
so we're thank you. Yeah, I mean I don't know how we're going to pay for it yet, but that's the plan,
worked out.
Right? Yes. Going back to my Catholic days, I'd be blessing myself, right? But we're really, really excited about that. And we haven't been able to grow or take any major significant steps in our story without faith, right? Like he's so good that way, man. Like he wants you to put your feet on the water before the water divides, right? And so we're believing that he's going to do that, right? Our next hike in rent is just $700, which is amazing for that.
3,000 square feet.
Well, it's not.
Give or take.
It's an addition, right? It's an addition
but still,
to what we're.
That's not bad.
No, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. But it's in addition to. What we're paying for down here. We're going to give back down here, move up there, and just get more space. And then there'll be a couple other ramp ups, in time. We just believe if God lets us get in there, that He's going to send the people.
Yep.
So our prayer right now is just that God would touch people's hearts to help us on a monthly basis, enlarge our territory so that we might have greater impact for the kingdom in our community and in the country and around the world, right? And that's what we're called, Broken Chains International. We have people all over the place, but we have a heart for where we are right here,
Absolutely.
Right? So, and there's plenty of people right here. I mean, in Atlanta, there's 4.5 million people in Atlanta. That's all the people on my island, right? The whole island fits into Atlanta, and not size, just population, right? So. So growing forward, we're going to continue to grow the Live, Love, Lead Academy, right? And that's more of a virtual coaching experience, right? Yeah. And we believe God's going to continue to grow our team here so that our presence again in the community and around the country and the world impact will increase. And I will say we're going to start a certification program for coaches, because there's a lot of people who would love to transition, or at least be helping people in more formal ways on the side, of what they're doing for their 9 to 5 maybe, and some just transition wholly. We're going to be launching a coaching certification program here pretty soon. And lastly, just for the sake of time, intensives. I can only fit so many intensives into the year.
Sure.
For me personally, right? And so
you're trading time for the intensive, like you have to be there.
Yeah. So we're already training up our team. Some of them are going to become intensive counselors and coaches as well. So that's exciting for me. Yep. And I think we will probably in time put together also like an intensive training model to train counselors, further afield, because it's a really, really powerful experience, and you and I have both experienced it, right?
Yes.
And so it can just help us process the past, get rid of some excess junk, get our heads screwed back on straight, get some tools to equip to give what we now do have to give to make life and love and leadership better, and then have oil changes, right? If the intensive is an overhaul on the engine of our car, then moving forward is like oil changes, just maintenance in our lives.
Upgrades too, if you want to put some crazy exhaust or some power in there.
I'm all about souping up this stuff.
There you go, soup it up. So there is an incredible mission, incredible calling, incredible act of service, and obviously you're looking to impact as many people as possible. So if I'm a person listening or watching on the other end of this, I have a tug on my heart, and regardless of what situation you have in your life, but you want to find out more about, I guess maybe the first part is like, what kind of heads up or value add, or how could you make them feel comfortable about coming to see you? And then how would they find you? How would they contact you? Social media, email, or website, those type of things.
Great, yeah. Well, the first tip or first ask I would say is, if you just want to text the word love, LOVE, to 678-608-2111, that's the word. Just send the word love to 678-608-2111. They'll get a response from us and get some free tools just in that text kind of communication back and forth. That would be a phone number you can also call, or call our 800 number. It's 800-910-5060, and just press extension 1. You'll talk to our amazing client care specialists, Alex and Sarah, and they will take really good care of you. They would be a couple of ways. We are on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. Just everywhere. Search Broken Chains International, right, and you'll find us there. We would love for you to follow us on social media, and but I think that probably the fastest track is just texting love to 678-608-2111.
There's never enough time in the day for us to be together. I enjoy our time. You're an amazing human being. I love you. You've done a lot for our family. I'm very eternally grateful. And if you are someone who needs any kind of assistance in life, coaching, mentoring, leadership development, counseling, your marriage is on the rocks, you're having a difficult time in life, whatever that situation may be for you, know that you're not alone. Know that there are people out there that do love you, and that you're not broken for good. You can be fixed, and you can be put in a better position. So reach out to this man, his office, his team. They're amazing. I put my stamp of approval for whatever that's worth on them. They're amazing human beings, and be sure to reach out if you have any questions, or if you're in pain, or if you need help. He's the powerful, the mighty Kevin Daly, the Chief Care or Chief Encouragement Officer of Broken Chains International, Live, Love, Lead. I am Jesse T. Catch us next week on the newest episode.